The story of the Brazilian carrier São Paulo is not simply about a warship being decommissioned and sunk. For many Brazilians, especially within naval circles and strategic defense communities, São Paulo embodied a moment when Brazil stood among the few nations capable of projecting power from the sea with fixed-wing aircraft. The memory of that capability lingers, the roar of the Skyhawk catapulting into the air, the symbol of maritime sovereignty that stretched beyond territorial waters into the open South Atlantic. When São Paulo was in service, Brazil possessed not only hardware, but prestige. Brazil could look across the ocean and say, "We are present." Yet reality eventually collided with nostalgia. São Paulo was not a modern carrier. It was a product of the 1960s, a veteran of another era. The ship's original French systems, including steam catapults and propulsion, were obsolete. Operational limitations became structural. Maintenance became chronic. Replacement parts became a logistical nightmare, many having to be custom fabricated. The carrier increasingly resembled an artifact rather than a weapon of war, and its readiness deteriorated. The AF-1 Skyhawk fighters, though modernized domestically, were subsonic aircraft originally from the Cold War era. Their radar and avionics were significantly improved, but they could not match contemporary carrier-borne fighters elsewhere in the world. The Skyhawks served with dignity, and their pilots, naval aviators of Brazil, carried a legacy of skill and professionalism. But each flight became a reminder of a widening technological gap. The world of naval aviation was moving towards stealth, data fusion, unmanned operations, and integrated battle networks. When the time came to decide São Paulo's fate, it presented a cultural and emotional fracture line. For some, retiring the ship felt like a capitulation, a retreat from a symbolic level of power. For others, including Brazilian naval leadership looking toward the future, it represented liberation from what had become a burdensome relic. Maintaining carrier capability was not merely a matter of keeping a ship afloat. It required doctrine, supply chains, flight decks, training cycles, spare parts, specialized workshops, carrier-qualified aircraft, and a domestic defense industry ready to sustain them. Sinking the São Paulo in February 2023 was therefore more than a technical disposal operation. It was a strategic punctuation mark. To sink the ship in deep water was a symbolic and material gesture, burying a technological past to clear room for a new maritime paradigm. Brazil was not ending its naval ambition. It was refining it. In the years since, the shape of Brazilian naval doctrine has transformed. Instead of pursuing a surface-dominated presence symbolized by a carrier, Brazil has shifted its center of gravity toward undersea dominance. Submarines, not carriers, will define Brazil's power at sea. This reflects geographic logic. Brazil's coastline stretches 8,000 kilometers facing the South Atlantic, a maritime theater where surveillance and deterrence matter more than expeditionary strike capability. Under the PROSUB program, Brazil is constructing a modern submarine fleet, including the landmark development of an indigenous nuclear-powered submarine. This is a generational capability shift. A carrier is a statement of visibility. A submarine is a statement of invisibility. The carrier tells the world, "I am here." The submarine tells adversaries, "I may be anywhere." In strategic deterrence, uncertainty is often more powerful than spectacle. This does not mean Brazil has abandoned aviation at sea. Instead, it is exploring more adaptive solutions. The multi-purpose vessel Atlântico can host helicopters and, increasingly, unmanned systems. UAV operations from deck platforms will become a critical enabler of maritime situational awareness. Rather than launching expensive fighters into contested airspace, where Brazil may deploy long-endurance unmanned aircraft to monitor waters, track vessels, and provide target data to submarines and surface ships. This approach aligns with 21st century naval evolution. Carrier strike groups remain formidable, but are also increasingly vulnerable to hypersonic weapons, long-range anti-ship missiles, and dense sensor networks. Even wealthy nations are reconsidering how they project power from the sea. Brazil's pivot is therefore not a withdrawal from high-tier naval capability, but a move toward a form that suits its strategic environment, fiscal reality, and technological trajectory. There remains a question often asked within Brazilian defense discussions. Will Brazil ever return to possessing a true fixed-wing aircraft carrier? The answer is, it is possible, but not imminent. The timeline for such a return extends into the realm of 2040 and beyond. A future carrier, if it emerges, would need to be part of a mature national defense industrial base capable of producing advanced naval aviation systems domestically. Brazil would require not just a ship, but aircraft, sensors, supply chains, shipyards, and specialized personnel developed over decades. And perhaps this is the deeper truth. São Paulo was never merely a warship. It was a national aspiration made steel. Its sinking does not represent the extinguishing of that aspiration. It marks the closing of one chapter and the disciplined preparation for another. Brazil is now investing in capabilities that will give it true maritime leverage: silent submarines, regional sea control, indigenous naval technology, unmanned platforms, and a doctrine aligned with asymmetric advantage. When future Brazilian submarines glide beneath the South Atlantic waves, they will carry forward the legacy once symbolized by São Paulo. That legacy is not about the kind of ship Brazil has, but the kind of power Brazil seeks: calm, persistent, intelligent sea mastery. For Brazilian viewers, this narrative matters because it is not a story of loss. It is a story of strategic maturity. Brazil did not lose a carrier, it shed an outdated skin. The future Brazilian Navy is not weaker for sinking São Paulo. It is stronger for recognizing that capability cannot be sustained by sentimentality. Power must evolve. If you value sober analysis of Brazil's defense evolution and want to follow the unfolding story of Brazil's naval future, you are invited to join this channel and stay with us as we continue tracking Brazil's rise as a serious maritime power in the South Atlantic.